So if you're a Limbo enjoyer, right, the two of yous watching this video, it's just for yous, the gentleman bastard might never get his much needed rework. It all comes down to Mexico apparently winning the World Cup, which, to be frank and honest, ain't feckin' happening. I shouldn't need to say this, right, but Pablo is of course just joking. Also, from Monday for the 2 remaining weeks before TennoCon actually happens, there will be Twitch drops that you can get your hands on simply by watching any Warframe stream. 2 sets of glyphs. The first set of glyphs is available from Monday the 29th, so this Monday, up to July the 2nd. All you have to do is watch a Warframe stream in the directory for 1 hour for the first drop, 2 hours for the second drop, and 3 hours for the third drop. Now, the second week of free glyphs for Twitch drops is from July the 2nd to July the 9th. The same again, watch for 1 hour, 2 hour, and 3 hours, and you will get your hands on those glyphs. Absolute Cinema Stalker and of course Dump It Albrecht are definitely ones you're going to want to get your hands on. But let's move on to the main topic of the video. Now, another hotfix dropped late last night for Warframe, and this one brings some changes we really needed, but I'm still hoping more are to come, especially for Sirius and Orion at the very least. Now, the big headline is, of course, Railjack, right? Because Path Railjack, up until this point, since they introduced it, was a bit of a bullet sponge heaven experience, or hell experience, sorry. Now they've decided to add Mark IV Railjack turrets so that you can do more damage. Now, these new turret upgrades drop from Path Railjack missions, so you're going to have to, I guess, go through a bit of pain with your normal weapons in order to get some of these to drop. And according to DE, they are around 50% stronger than your current Mark III versions. So if your Railjack felt like it was firing wet paper at Path enemies, it pretty much was, and this should help you quite a bit. Now, I ran 3 or 4 missions on Path Railjack this morning on a low level skirmish and got quite a few upgrades, and the difference in damage output is very, very noticeable. Now, there is one catch though, right? This is only for Railjack turrets right now, not ordnance, not engine, not shields, not reactors, just your guns. Now, DE have said that they will revisit the need for any new Mark IV ordnances and components in the future, but for now, this is mostly a damage upgrade for your ships. They have also cleaned up the Path drop tables a little bit, removing Mark I and Mark II components and armaments from the drop tables, which makes sense because if you're running or farming Path Railjack missions, getting low level or early game junk from enemies isn't exactly ideal, and it's only diluting the drop table. You want those higher level, harder hitting Railjack guns instead. Now, Ryoku and Venus Railjacks in the new Uranus Proxima missions have also been upgraded to use Mark IV turrets because they weren't strong enough, especially if you were doing those missions in Path. So the Railjacks should now actually feel a bit more powerful and a bit more useful instead of just floating around, I guess, pretending to deal damage. Also, they are definitely not Ferrari's Rebecca, right? More like a Volvo estate with a cracked windscreen and a feckin' slow puncture. Now, the weapon choices on them, I don't like. They don't fit my playstyle. The weapon choices on those Railjacks are not great. Now, Railjack shield arrays also got improvements, mainly around shield recharge delay reduction. The Lavan and the Vidar Mark IIs and the Mark III shields also got better values, and that applies retroactively to the ones that you already own and might have equipped on your Railjack. There is also a UI bug apparently in the dry dock where the recharge delay is being calculated wrong on your screen, but DE have said that that is only a visual issue. So basically, Railjacks right now are a bit more powerful, thankfully. Now, the next set of changes from last night's hotfix are, of course, towards the Suns, Sirius and Orion. And honestly, these are welcome changes as well. Sirius's Jade stars got a proper buff. Their heat status chance went from 30% to 100%, and the stars now launch and regenerate much faster as well. That should make the ability to, I guess, feel a lot less sluggish and a lot more reliable, especially if you're trying to build around those heat procs. Maybe you want to use something like Arcane Hotshot. However, the damage output for this ability is still quite low. Orion's Event Horizon, okay, his black hole, has had its range increased as well, bumped up from 6 meters to 8 meters. So the black hole now has a bigger pull radius, which you can definitely notice in game. You can see enemies at a much further distance getting sucked into the black hole. It isn't a massive rework, but it is definitely a kind of quality of life buff that these frames or this frame needed. Now, there were a few other hotfixes for Sirius and Orion. Like the Jade Stars now work with, like I said, Arcane Hotshot. Gravitic Slash should now reduce shields and armor properly on enemies with overguard, and they fixed some of the weirder bugs that this frame or these frames were experiencing in the game, where they could instantly die, they could fail to be revived in the index, they could slow down after Sanctuary Onslaught portals, they could count as two separate entities when running Descendia missions. Basically, Sirius and Orion got a mix of direct buffs and quality of life or cleanup fixes. Nothing that completely changes the frame, but enough to make them feel a little bit smoother and less buggy. Like I said at the start of the video, however, I still think they need a lot more love. Their whole kit is just used as a battery to feed their ultimate, which still deals mediocre damage compared to so many frames in the game and so many weapons as well. Basically, the build-up you're having to go through in order to cast all of your abilities to use that ultimate isn't really, I guess, worth it for what you get in the end, considering someone else in your party will have already killed all the enemies before you get to cast that ultimate ability. Then we have the next change on the hotfix agenda, which was basically the Ballistica Prime. This one is aimed at the Incarnon Ghost Army nonsense that we were basically having to deal with. First, DE have reduced the lens flare intensity when the Ballistica Prime's ghosts die. When they would despawn, you would get this flashbang, which was quite annoying. So your screen should hopefully be a little less flashbanged by dead ghost particles. More importantly, they have fixed the multi-shot issue affecting how many ghosts were spawned by the Ballistica Prime's Incarnon kills. Before this, one enemy could spawn into multiple ghosts, which is why the weapon could spawn a complete ghost army in the middle of a mission, which would block you running through hallways and doorways, would block your shots as well. That has now been fixed, so you're not going to get as many ghosts as you did before, and they're not going to flashbang you once they despawned. Now, there is also Incarnon fixes for the Stug and the Vectus, where explosive kills weren't being counted towards their kill 100 enemies challenge. But overall, this is another solid hotfix with, like I said, hopefully more to come. Railjack gets a real steel part farming incentive so that you can go after those Mark IV turrets and make yourself more powerful. Sirius and Orion get some much needed polish and I guess fixes, and the Ballistica Prime's Ghost Army with multi-shot has been toned down so that it stops blocking you and your shots mid-mission. Now, Nidus also got a little bit of a quality of life change as well, and honestly it's a really nice one. Holding Parasitic Link will now automatically link to the nearest valid teammate or ally in range, like your pets or companions. So if you're using Nidus for that big health link setup, you don't have to be, I guess, quite as precise as to who you latch onto. And if you want to latch onto a companion, which I know I always do, to my Kubra or my Infested Charger, then now all I have to do is hold that ability down. They also fixed a weird bug where Nidus could link to his Sentinel, which was apparently not intended, so you can't do that anymore, but you can link to, I guess, a pet companion. Now, it's not a massive patch, but it does hit some of the bigger pain points that a lot of players, I guess, were talking about. Railjack players have something better now to chase. With luck, however, Mexico will win the World Cup and Limbo will get the rework, but the reality is France, Argentina, Germany or the Netherlands will more than likely take it, and Limbo will continue to cry in his corner. Now, let me know what do you think of the Railjacks new guns in the comment section below, which ones you've decided to settle on or which ones you're actively going to farm. What else would you like to see them change or rework with Sirius and Orion to put them in a much better spot than they are in right now, because they are just okay. Have a great day, have a great week, and as always, thanks for watching.